Sup you phonies, how's it going? Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the basic of lighting and cinematography, and I'm going to be using Blender to showcase all of that. Have you ever heard of three-point lighting? If the answer is no, then today is the day, because three-point lighting is the basis of all cinematography lighting wise. Look at the scene right now here. Okay, it's just a tutorial, but I still try to achieve three-point lighting here. My key light is right there, lighting my face. My fill light is coming from here, and the rim light is coming from the back. So what does it all mean? Let's jump into Blender and I'm gonna show you. So here in Blender we have a very simple scene. Here we see the camera view. This is what the camera sees, and this here is the 3D viewport. Those little things here are light sources, and the way I got them in here, I just use the 3-point light plugin. To be honest, it's the first time me using that because I wanted to see how it works. If you want to use that too, you just go up to Edit, Preferences, go to Extensions and look for Try Lighting and install that. If you want to know how to use the 3-point lighting plugin, I'm going to show you by the end of this video. But first, what even is 3-point lighting? So 3-point lighting is the idea that you light your scene from 3 different sides. In that case, this here is my subject, and my subject needs 3 lights, but it doesn't necessarily need 3 lights sources like lights. And when you work with real cameras and real lights, it doesn't have to be 3 lamps or 3 film lights. It can be other things too, but more about that later. Let's start from scratch. Let's say we don't have any lights in our scene. It will be completely black. Okay, now we give our subject the key light. From top right, that's the key light, and we can light it as bright and as soft as we want. This is brighter. Let's make it a little softer, whatever we desire. Okay, so again, this light source sets the mood. Right now I'm not trying to tell any interesting story, but let's say we have a character and we don't know if he is good or evil. I'm gonna light him from the side, and again, I do it in Blender right now, but on camera, on set, I would do the same thing. I light him from the side, so we don't really know, is he good or evil? Two-Face is a great example. But what if he's a poker player? We don't really know what he's thinking. I'm gonna light him from the top, because if we can't see his eyes, we can't look into his soul, we don't know what he thinks. What if he's demonic? He's from hell, like horror movies are lit from the bottom. Again, we barely see his face, and it's like almost like he's lit from hell. So we set the key light below your subject. So again, that's what a key light does. In commercials, the key light is mainly from the front and very big and soft. That's how you light a commercial, that everything looks pure, there is no shadows in the face. That's how you would light a commercial. Now, this is what the key light does. Now let's move on to the fill light. What does the fill do? It fills out the shadows, because right now we have a very harsh contrast, and to just very subtly take off the contrast, we fill out those shadows with a little bit of fill, and the light comes from the exact opposite direction. When the key light is from the side, also the fill light should also come from the other side to fill out those shadows a little. So the only purpose of the fill light is to remove the contrast from your subject. Now, there's the third light. It's called either the rim light or hair light. In Blender it's called the backlight, and what that does is it gives your subject a little more separation from the background. You can see here that now we can see his edge. If this light was off, he basically sinks into the background. The background is non-existing right now. I'm gonna just make a quick background for you real quick. I'm just gonna make a big plane, extrude the back wall, bevel the ground a little. There you go. Now we have a back wall, and let's just make it black. So that happens very often. You have a subject and he has a very dark hat, maybe he has dark hair, or maybe it's an African American, he has dark skin. How do we separate him from a dark background? And it's not just dark backgrounds, it's backgrounds in general. But that way, if you have this rim light, we can separate him from the background. That's what the rim light is for. And people always ask me, how do you make your footage, like real life footage, how do you make it so cinematic? And the answer is always focus on the rim light, because if I only had one light source available in nature, I would make it a rim light, because it just separates your subject from the background and looks more cinematic. Obviously the key light is more important, but if you shoot in some random room, you're always going to have some light sources, but you're not necessarily going to have a harsh rim light like here. That's a good point. How soft or harsh should you make your light sources? In Blender, it's very easy because I can just adjust the radius, and based on the radius I can make it softer or harsher. In real life on set, I have to use diffusers or other ways to soften out my light sources. For example, something what happens a lot is we have our key light here, and we're actually not going to use a fill light. Let's turn this off for now. Instead of a fill light, what very often is used, using a reflector. You've seen this in photography a lot, I assume. So I'm just going to put a plane here right next to his face, make this plane white and metallic, and this plane is basically just a reflector for my key light right now. When I turn it off, you can see there is no light. When I turn it on, it just bounces back the light on your subject, and usually you do that with reflectors on set, but I'm not demonstrating that to tell you, hey, you can just use bouncers here as light sources in Blender. You can, but why would you if you can just use light sources? But in real life, this is how you can control your lighting and very easily bounce back lights. In real life sets, there's also a thing called negative fill. I'm gonna demonstrate that real quick. I'm gonna put an HDRI in my scene, like anything, doesn't matter. So now if I make my plane, let me change it to here. If I make this plane black, bring it close to my subject, if I turn it off, you can see he's evenly lit from all the sides. But if I turn it on, because it's blocking light sources and all the reflections which go bounce back and forth, they're all eliminated. That's called a negative fill. If I want more contrast in my shots, which is used very, very often in cinematography. All right, let's turn the HDRI off again. So we have the key light, the fill light, and the rim light or the backlight. Again, I said that earlier, yes, it's called 3-point lighting, but it does not mean it has to be 3 light sources. The fill light could also be a bounce. The key light doesn't have to be a light, like a lamp. It can also be the sun, for example. In Blender, it could actually be the sun, or in real life, the key light, very often when you shoot outside, the key light is actually the sun. So you don't have to be strict about that at all. And for example, it doesn't have to be just 3 light sources, because maybe, let's say, my key light is very far from the front, like that. So now he has a very pretty rim light on his right shoulder, our left, but this shoulder is kind of dark, especially like here, this part of the hat. So I could just duplicate my rim light and give him a second rim light on the other side. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, giving a subject 2 rim lights. I do that on set all the time if I can, because now this shadowy area is actually illuminated and we can actually separate the subject from the background. Again, it's done in photography, in videography, and cinematography, done all the time. And it doesn't matter what format you're working with. In narrative film, you see that all the time. Music videos, often in music videos, they just give it a different color. Just like my rim light from the side here is blue right now, just like his. This rim light is warm for a little color contrast like this. And the light in the front, the key light, is neutral. So I just lit him the same way I'm lit in real life right now. And why is all this so important? Because, like in real life examples, for example, let me go back to my very first test I had to do in film school about camera and lighting. The task was light an interview subject in a way that it looks like he has an aquarium right next to him. So he's talking about fish or something like that, and he has an aquarium. I forgot if it was next to him or behind him. In that example, it would be behind him, but let's say this aquarium is actually next to him. So in that case, the fill light, I would actually make the fill light blue. The rim light would still be warm, but behind him more. And just for like an extra edge, I gave him another blue rim light on this side. So that was basically my test, and I passed, luckily. And that's how you can light your scenes too. So as I promised, I'm gonna show you now how to set up the 3-point lighting with the plugin. So let's just delete everything here. We don't need nothing. Delete that too. Okay, as you can see, you don't see anything. So I showed you already how to install your plugin over preferences. Once you've done that, you need to select a object what the 3-point lighting is going to be lighting. You could just select your object, but I recommend actually with Shift A, make a new empty. I just use an arrow, bring this empty, this origin point to whatever you want to be in the center of the light. It may be even the center of your focus later for your camera. So this is for me his eyeballs. Now it's important that you select your subject you want to be lighting. So not him, I want to be lighting this empty. Now with Shift A, I go on light, 3-point lighting, and now it's lit automatically. Now I just have to adjust the strength of my lights. This is the key light. The fill light is on the other side right now, and the rim light is from the back, and those are in the wrong direction right now. So I can just select all of them, hit R, rotate them until they actually are where I want them to be. So that's it for this video. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please hit the like button. I would appreciate it, and see you in the next video. Toodaloo.